Well, since Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, UK car manufacturers have mostly ceased exports to Russia. But Russian buyers may be accessing premium British models by another means, skirting sanctions via neighbouring Azerbaijan.
You don't have to go far in Moscow without seeing evidence of how much Russians love luxury goods. And that includes a lot of high-end Western brands and especially British automobiles.
Bentley.
After the invasion of Ukraine and the imposition of sanctions in 2022, that was all supposed to stop. Car makers pledged not to send their new models there. But a Sky News investigation has found these exports seem to be continuing even now.
Now, it's certainly true that UK car exports to Russia have fallen very sharply since the invasion, basically down to zero. But just look at what's happened over the same period with car exports to Azerbaijan. They have gone up at an unprecedented rate, into the hundreds of millions each year, up by 1,860%. We've never seen anything like that at all, raising the question, is something going on in Azerbaijan's economy? Well, not really. Developing economy, GDP about the same size as Ghana, 10 million people. But the main thing is, just look where it's sited, on the border of Russia. And when you look at what's happened to car exports from Azerbaijan to Russia since the invasion, they've done almost exactly the same thing as our exports to Azerbaijan. And that raises a final question. Where have our exports mainly come from? Well, the main port of departure is this one in the southwest of England.
Up until the invasion of Ukraine, the port of Bristol had never seen more than a few £1 million of exports to Azerbaijan. In the past couple of years, that's risen to the hundreds of millions.
This is one of the country's main ports for the import and export of cars, but among the models leaving here over the past 2 years have been thousands of high-end British cars going in vessels rather like that around Europe into the Black Sea and ending up almost certainly in Russia. Our data shows it's been happening. The question is why it hasn't been stopped.
After all, the sale of cars over £42,000 to Russia is explicitly banned under the UK's sanctions regime. Britain's motoring lobby group, the SMMT, said UK vehicle manufacturers are committed to full compliance with all current and future trade sanctions. There is no available evidence to indicate a lack of compliance with existing sanctions, but manufacturers will remain vigilant and will condemn any party that puts their commitment to compliance at risk. But talking in Parliament today, the Foreign Office Minister who deals with sanctions said this was a wake-up call for business.
Sets out very clearly that they shouldn't be doing business obviously with Russia or potentially with a third country that might support Russia. So as these things appear, as indeed the Sky report by Ed Conway has come out today, if it appears that there is a diversionary activity to sell goods that have a potential both dual use and value, then there is a need for those businesses to consider their position, and for DBT and now the Office of Trade team to have conversations with them to see whether they are legitimately didn't think anything of it or whether there is something which needs dealing with.
The Azerbaijani car exports are just a fraction of those Britain sends around the world, but it's a fraction that looks increasingly awkward for a country which has said it wants to wage economic war on Russia.